Boy drags tire to school daily. The reason will break your heart. Sean, a determined teenager, woke up every morning before sunrise, ready for another day of dragging a tire to school. His small suburban town had its fair share of oddities, but Sean's daily rituals stood out among them. He had a quiet confidence that intrigued some and amused others, but he didn't care who laughed or looked at him. The first day, his neighbors chuckled as they watched him struggle with the heavy tire along the quiet suburban streets. Some thought it was a quirky teenage whim, while others dismissed it as a futile attempt at attention-seeking. "What's this boy doing? Teenagers these days are always trying to do something to go viral," a woman named Mrs. Johnson said annoyingly. But not everyone was as annoyed by Sean as Mrs. Johnson. Curiosity got the better of Mrs. Jenkins, Sean's elderly neighbor, and she decided to ask him about his unusual routine. She liked the boy, and he always showed kindness and respect towards her and her husband. With a friendly smile, she approached him one morning as he tugged the tire along the sidewalk. "Good morning, Sean, my boy. What's all this tire dragging about? You got the whole neighborhood in a frenzy. Is everything all right, dear boy?" Mrs. Jenkins inquired. Sean explained that he was dragging the tire to school as part of a daily ritual, but he remained cryptic about its purpose. He assured Mrs. Jenkins that it was essential, a personal mission that he felt compelled to fulfill every day. Each day, she watched Sean doing his daily ritual. She decided to do something unexpected. She knew that maybe by doing this, it could come in handy sometime. Intrigued, Mrs. Jenkins trusted her gut feeling and started filming Sean's tire-dragging journey from her living room window. She wanted to capture this peculiar ritual for her own understanding and perhaps to share it with others who were equally curious. As the days turned into weeks, the neighborhood began to mock Sean, giving him peculiar looks and snickering behind his back. The laughter echoed through the streets, but Sean remained steadfast, determined to see his mission through. Sean only had one thing on his mind, and he was intent on carrying out what he'd sought to do. Unfazed, Sean persevered, dragging the tire with unwavering determination fueled by a secret purpose. His resilience became a talking point in the community, with some praising his commitment and others dismissing him as a misunderstood eccentric. "I'm getting tired of this boy and his antics already. Why doesn't he just stop?" Mrs. Johnson complained. At that point, Mrs. Jenkins was getting tired of all Mrs. Johnson's complaints. She knew that Sean was doing this because of a higher purpose. He was a smart boy. Mrs. Jenkins continued filming, growing more curious about the mystery behind Sean's peculiar routine. She sensed there was more to this story than met the eye and was determined to uncover the truth. One day, as Sean passed by, a group of teenagers couldn't resist mocking him openly, making fun of his daily tire-dragging ritual. Their taunts echoed in the quiet morning air, but Sean pressed on, his eyes fixed on the path ahead. "What are you doing? You think you're better than us? You better stop this stupid routine or we'll stop it for you," one of them threatened. But Sean continued on his mission. The laughter and jeers only fueled Sean's determination, strengthening his resolve to carry on with his mission, even though some of the remarks he heard pierced through his heart and were very hurtful. He knew that one day they would understand, and the tire would no longer be a symbol of mockery but a beacon of hope. Mrs. Jenkins, despite being amused by the neighborhood gossip, couldn't shake the feeling there was more to Sean's story. Although he wasn't saying anything to anyone, including his own parents, she knew he had a good reason for doing it. She decided to take a more active role in unraveling the mystery and invited Sean over for tea, hoping he'd finally reveal his secret. However, to her dismay, Sean didn't reveal everything to her just yet. He continued to keep everyone in the dark, and over time, even Mrs. Jenkins wondered if there was something wrong with the boy. She decided to let him be and hoped and prayed that he'd be alright on his mission. She hoped that the neighborhood bullies wouldn't do anything to him out of spite. 3 years passed and the routine continued. Sean, now a young man, continued dragging the tire to school without fail. Mrs. Jenkins had become a silent supporter, observing from her window and occasionally inviting him for tea and cookies. No one knew what was going on through Sean's mind at this point, but they'd soon find out. Also, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to our channel and click that notification bell to get inspired by these real-life stories every day. Now, back to the story. The laughter had evolved into genuine curiosity as neighbors wondered about the purpose behind Sean's unusual habit. Some began to speculate, imagining elaborate theories about secret training or eccentric artistic expression. "I think he's secretly training for the CIA. That's all I can think of. No one trains this hard unless it's for the government. It looks like this boy's been recruited," Mrs. Johnson theorized. Mrs. Jenkins decided it was time to uncover the truth and invited Sean over for tea once again, hoping he'd finally reveal his secret. She baked his favorite peanut butter and chocolate cookies in the hopes that he'd finally open up. The quaint living room became a space for trust and confessions as Sean opened up about the tire and the mission it represented. Mrs. Jenkins secretly thanked the heavens when it seemed like her cookies had done the trick. It looked like Sean was ready to open up. Over tea, Sean shared his heartfelt story. The tire symbolized the burden of poverty that many in his community faced. His daily act of dragging it to school was a silent protest, a way to bring attention to the struggles of those less fortunate. It wasn't easy for him to finally open up, but when he did, everything made sense to Mrs. Jenkins. He explained that every day he dragged the tire to school to raise awareness about the hardships faced by families in their own neighborhoods. The tire was a symbol of solidarity and a call to action for those who could make a difference. "I knew you were doing this for a cause far bigger than anything else, my boy. You make me so proud," Mrs. Jenkins said as she hugged him tightly. Mrs. Jenkins, deeply moved by Sean's sincerity, realized the true meaning behind his actions and pledged to help him in his mission. Together, they hatched a plan to turn the tire-dragging ritual into a community movement for positive change. News about Sean's tire-dragging campaign spread throughout the neighborhood, changing the narrative from mockery to admiration. Residents began to understand the purpose behind the peculiar routine and rallied behind Sean's cause. Even Mrs. Johnson got involved and swore that she knew that he was up to something good all along. Inspired by Sean's dedication, the community came together to support this cause, organizing charity events and fundraisers for those in need. The tire, once a source of amusement, became a symbol of community strength and compassion. And Sean, once on a determined mission, was relieved to finally rest now that everyone knew what he was doing and why. The local newspaper picked up the story, turning Sean into a local hero and shedding light on the hidden struggles within their seemingly idyllic community. The tire became a powerful metaphor for resilience and the potential for positive change within a close-knit community. It was what Sean wanted to achieve from the very beginning of his daunting journey. However, after a lengthy rest period, Sean decided to start dragging the tire again in an attempt to raise even more awareness. One day, as Sean was dragging the tire, his neighbor Mrs. Jones, the one who'd once laughed at him, approached him with humility in her eyes. She had seen the impact of Sean's tire-dragging campaign and felt a deep sense of regret for her past behavior. The once mocking neighbor apologized for her ignorance and asked Sean for forgiveness, expressing a desire to contribute to the cause. "I'm so sorry, Sean. I didn't know why you were doing it, and I let myself be influenced by others. I admire you and respect your cause," Mrs. Jones said apologetically. Sean, embodying the compassion he preached, forgave her, welcoming her into the community effort to make a positive impact. Sean's act of forgiveness became a powerful lesson for the entire community, emphasizing the transformative potential of empathy and understanding. As the community rallied behind Sean's tire-dragging campaign, it caught the attention of local businesses and philanthropists. They were impressed by the unity and dedication displayed in the face of adversity and wanted to contribute to the cause. Sean's story went viral, reaching far beyond the confines of his neighborhood and inspiring others to take action in their communities. The tire-dragging movement became a symbol of grassroots change, prompting discussions about poverty and community engagement on a national level. This was exactly what Sean had wanted. He wanted the country to wake up and realize what was going on. The high school, once a place of mockery, now celebrated Sean's tire-dragging ritual as a symbol of compassion and community solidarity. The school administration recognized Sean's efforts by implementing programs to support local charities and families in need. Sean's parents were so proud of what he'd achieved. They couldn't believe that their once quiet son had gone on to make such a difference in the community. Graduation day arrived and the entire community gathered to honor Sean, presenting him with an award for his outstanding dedication to social change. Sean stood on the stage, unable to comprehend what he had achieved. The once quirky teenager had become a beacon of inspiration for all, proving that one person's determination could ignite a spark of positive transformation. Mrs. Johnson and Mr. Jones, who had both once mocked Sean, stood proudly among the crowd, now working side by side with him in various charitable initiatives. Their newfound partnership symbolized the community's ability to overcome differences and work toward a common goal. They wanted to make a huge difference in the lives of poorer families and communities as a whole. Sean's tire-dragging days may have come to an end, but the legacy he left behind continued to inspire positive change in the community. The tire, now retired from its daily journeys, stood as a silent testament to the power of persistence and the impact of collective action. Mrs. Jenkins eventually released the footage she'd made of him dragging the tire, and once again Sean's story went viral. In the end, Sean's tire-dragging journey proved that sometimes the most unconventional actions could lead to the most profound transformations in the hearts and minds of people. The community, once divided by laughter and mockery, had emerged stronger and more compassionate, thanks to Sean's unwavering commitment to making a difference. He couldn't have asked for anything more.